Good morning, students. Today we will be learning a new chapter called Object Oriented Programming. As you have already discussed or you already know this chapter last year, in first PUC also we studied this chapter. And this chapter, the basic concept of object oriented programming. This concept is introduced in chapter number 6, the basic concepts of object oriented programming. Let me just introduce you to this chapter. In terms of marks, the weightage of this chapter is 7 marks. That is, in annual paper, annual second PUC paper, you will be getting 7 marks questions from this chapter. You will be getting one question of 2 marks, the other question is 5 marks, one question, one each. That is, you will have 2 marks, one question, and 5 marks, one question from this chapter. In total, you will have 7 marks from this chapter. Let us just recall some of the concepts, the connecting concepts which we had studied in a chapter called Problem Solving Methodology, which we studied in first PUC syllabus. In problem solving methodology, we had discussed a chapter called Programming Techniques. And the programming techniques included unstructured programming, structured programming, procedural programming, modular programming, and object-oriented programming. There are in total 5 programming techniques, that is unstructured, structured, procedural, and modular programming. Finally, we have object-oriented programming. We had discussed each of these in detail in the first PUC syllabus, and we had also introduced you to object-oriented programming. Last year you just studied the concept, but we never implemented those concepts in our programming. But this year we will be using those techniques, object-oriented programming techniques, in our programs. Let me just brief you about the different programming techniques. First, let me start with unstructured programming. If you recall what you studied last year, I had explained unstructured programming means here there is one main program. There is only one main program and the data used by that program. So, unstructured programming has only one main program and the data used by that program. Generally, a beginners, that is one who are very new to the programming, they use unstructured programming. We had studied a concept called control statements in problem solving methodology and also in C++ programming. If you recall, we had studied control statements, that is looping structures, conditional control structures. For example, if else, nested if, while loop, do while loop, for loop. Structured programming is a programming technique which uses these control statements to write the program. Structured programming, we are using control statements to write the program, such as looping structures and conditional structures. Next comes the procedural programming. In procedural programming, there is one main program and there are n number of procedures. In procedural programming, the entire program is divided into one main program and there can be many procedures. So you may be wondering what is a procedure. Procedure is a small program. It's a sub-program. A small program which is written to do a specific task. One procedure can do one task. Procedure also has many other names. It is called subroutine, subprogram, function, or a procedure. How does a procedure and a main program works? There is one main program, and whenever a procedure has to be executed, a procedure is called. When a procedure is called, the control is transferred from the main program to the called procedure. Procedure means a small program. From main program, the control is transferred to the called procedure, and control executes the statements which are available in that procedure or a subprogram. After executing all the statements available in the procedure, control returns back to the main program. So this is how a procedure is called and executed in procedural programming. In procedural programming, the priority is given to the procedure. The data is allowed to move freely in the system. That is, the data can be exchanged between the procedures. The highest preference here is given to the procedure. Procedure is the small program. Next comes the modular programming. Modular programming is somewhat similar to a procedural programming. In modular programming, we also have a main program and many modules. Then what does a module has? A module can have many other procedures introduced or included within it. Next comes the object-oriented programming. We will be discussing in detail the concepts of object-oriented programming. Before that, let us have a discussion on limitations of procedure-oriented programming. The following are the limitations. The limitations, in the sense, it is the drawbacks. The procedural programming or the structured programming, they lack the clarity and reliability. There are a lot of confusions. There is many confusions in the concept, and as the program grows larger and larger, it is very difficult to maintain. The other problem with these languages where it is very difficult to represent any real world entities. To overcome this drawback, the new concept, that is object oriented programming, was introduced. Let us see what is a OOP language or what is object oriented concepts. As I explained earlier, the procedural programming, they give lot of preference to the programs. They emphasize on the program rather than the data. The data can be accessed between the procedures. But object oriented programming, it emphasizes on data. The priority is given to the data rather than the programs. As we discussed in procedural programming, there is one main program and many procedures. Each procedure is capable of doing one particular task, which means in procedural programming, the task is divided into number of procedures. As in object-oriented programming, the problem is decomposed into smaller units called objects. In procedural programming, a problem is divided into procedures. In object-oriented programming, the problem is divided into objects. As I told earlier, procedural programming, lot of priority is given to the procedure. As in object-oriented programming, the priority is given to the data. Data is protected, and data, it is not allowed to move freely in the system. Data, it is closely banded with the functions which operate on that data, and the data can be accessed only by the functions which operate on the data. That is, OOP combines the data and functions together as a single unit called object. So, OOP, what it will do? It will combine the data and functions into a single unit called object. Let us discuss the OOP system. So, as you see on the screen, we have three objects: object A, object B, and object C. Object A has the data and the functions. Object B also has the data and functions. Object C also has the data and functions. In object A, we have data and functions. Object A's data can be accessed only by the functions which operate on that data. Object B data can be accessed only by the functions which exist within object B. Similarly, the object C's data can be accessed only by the functions which are available in object C. As we see in the picture, we have object A, object B, and object C, and the data available in the object can be accessed only by the functions which are available in that object. Then, how does a OOP system work? In OOP system, the objects communicate with each other by the functions, but the data is protected, data is kept safe. It is not allowed to access by the functions of a different object or another object. Let us start discussing OOP characteristics. The basic concepts of OOP includes object, class, modularity, data abstraction, data encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, message passing, and dynamic binding. These are the characteristics or the basic concepts of object-oriented programming, that is, object, class, modularity, data abstraction, data encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, message passing, and dynamic binding. Let us discuss what is a object. A object is a identifiable entity of the real world. What do we mean by identifiable entity? The identifiable entity means in the real world, anything can be considered as an object. For example, a student can be an object, a book can be an object, an employee can be an object. A object is something which we identify and we represent it in a program. Every object has some characteristics and behavior. As we take an example of a student, the characteristics of a student is student has a name, student has father name, student has mother name, address, register number, combination, marks. These are some of the characteristics of a student object. Whereas we consider an employee, employee has a name, employee ID, department, salary. All these are some of the characteristics of an employee. In object-oriented programming, as discussed earlier, a problem is divided into smaller objects called smaller parts are called object rather than a procedure. For example, if you take a mobile phone, let us consider mobile phone as an object. A mobile phone has certain color, weight, display size, etc. Whereas along with the characteristics, a object also has some features. Like mobile phone, we can make a voice call, video call, memory size, etc. So likewise, if we consider a car as an object, a car has a model number, color, it has a year of manufacturing. Along with this, a car is capable of doing some actions or activities which are considered as the behavior of that object. That is, a car can start, a car can move, a car can stop. Similarly, if you take an example of a student has the characteristics of name, father name, register number, combination, marks. These are the characteristics of an object. Similarly, a student along with these characteristics will do certain actions, such as a student participates in some sports, he wins some prizes, a student writes an exam. So these are the behavior of that object or the student object. The characteristics of an object are also called the data members. The behavior of an object, that is, a student can write the exam, he can run, he can talk. So these are called the behavior or the functions of the object. Let us move on to what is a class. We generally say that class is a blueprint of the object. That is, a class represents the common properties of many objects. A class, it represents the common properties and behavior of many objects. Like before we construct any building, first we work on the blueprint. We plan certain things. Similarly, before creating an object, we create a class. Therefore, class is also called a blueprint of the object. What does it represent? As I told you, a object has two things. One is the characteristics and the behavior. The characteristics are represented using data and the behavior of the object is represented using functions. Therefore, the class represents the data and functions of an object. Now, let us move on to the next topic of object-oriented programming, that is modularity. What is modularity? So, modularity, this topic is very similar to you. You have heard this topic many a times. A module is a small program. It's a small independent program which can be independently tested and it can be executed. What is the job of a module? A module will do a specific task. For example, we consider a mobile phone. In mobile phone we have so many features. One of the feature is the camera. What is the job of camera? Camera captures videos and pictures. Similarly, we have FM. The FM option helps us to tune up to different channels. And similarly, we have internet. Then we have speakers which can be used to play music. In a mobile phone, we have Bluetooth which can be used to exchange files. Similarly, camera which will help us to take the pictures. Similarly, we have speakers which will help us to listen to the music. All these are the independent modules, but they are placed in a single mobile case. They belong to that mobile phone, and these will work only when a mobile works. Independently, if we remove it, it will not work. Similarly, modularity means we can have many programs each program capable of doing different tasks, and these programs can be put into a file called header file. A header file can include many modules. Each module will do one specific task, and the modules which are doing similar tasks, they can be put into one header file. Likewise, in a mobile phone we have a camera, we have a Bluetooth, we have a Wi-Fi which will help us to do different activities, but they all are part of one mobile phone. The next concept is data abstraction. What do we mean by data abstraction? Data abstraction, let me explain you with an example. When we purchase a new mobile phone, we are only interested in knowing how some of the feature can be used. For example, in a mobile phone, we are interested to know how we can use the camera, how we can use Bluetooth. We are not interested in the technical aspects of the camera, how it works, what is the lens size, so what is the technology used, how it captures the picture. So we are not interested in how the camera works, but we are interested only in knowing how to use the camera. We are not interested in knowing what is the technology used behind the execution or working of the camera. Similarly, we are interested only using Bluetooth. We are not interested in using technology used behind the Bluetooth. Similarly, the option data abstraction, the concept of data abstraction is we are representing only the required details. We are hiding the background details. Data abstraction means we are representing only the essential features required of an entity, and we are hiding the background details of that particular entity. For example, when we purchase a new car, we are interested only in knowing how to start the car. We are not interested in knowing the technology or the different spare parts used or introduced when we start the car. So data abstraction is the feature which is representing the essential features, and we are hiding the background details. That is called data abstraction. Now we move on to the next concept, that is data encapsulation. So what is data encapsulation? As I told earlier, we have a class. A class has a variable and a method. Method is nothing but the function. Function is also called the data. So data encapsulation, as we have been discussing, I told you earlier also that the data is closely binded with the functions which operate on that data called object. The binding, the wrapping of data with the functions in a single unit, and we are keeping data safe from the outer inference and misuse, is called data encapsulation. So the data, it is, as I told you, object A data can be accessed only by the functions of object A, not by the functions of object B. That means the data is closely binded within the object. So when we are wrapping the data, we are binding the data and functions together as a single unit, we use the concept of data encapsulation. Data encapsulation is also called data hiding, because as I told you, object A's data can be accessed only by the functions of object A. Object B cannot access the data of object A. Data encapsulation means we are binding or wrapping the data and the functions as one unit, and we are also keeping the data safe from outer inference and misuse. We are making sure that the data is not misused. What is inheritance? The next concept of object oriented programming is inheritance. Inheritance means, imagine we already have an existing object. I require some of the features of existing object. Now, when I create a new object, I can make use of the existing object's properties. I can inherit the properties which are available in an existing object to a new object. Inheritance is a process where it is possible to acquire the properties of one object into another object. So, we can create a new object from an existing object. The existing object is called base object and the new object is called derived object. For example, we have class A. Class B is inherited from class A. Next comes polymorphism. So, polymorphism, it's a Greek word which means one name, many forms. It's the ability to process more than one forms. For example, as we know that plus, generally plus is used to add two numbers. By polymorphism, we can make plus to add two strings, to join two strings. So, similarly here we have a example where we are using draw. Draw function can be used to draw many shapes like rectangle, triangle and circle. The name of all the functions will be same, but depending upon how they are called, the draw function is used. Next we have dynamic binding. So, what is dynamic binding? As we know that when we execute a program, we have two stages, compile time and execution time. Compile time is when the source program is compiled and debugged. It is translated. Runtime, the compiled program will be executed. Dynamic binding refers to we are linking the procedure call during the execution of the program rather than the compilation program, which means the procedure calls are linked when a program is executed, not compiled. Like in Turbo C, we press Alt F9 to compile and Control F9 to execute or run. So, in dynamic binding, the procedure call is not linked when we press Alt F9, which is compilation time. It will be executed during the execution of the program, that is when we press Control F9, that is called dynamic binding. In dynamic binding, the procedure call is linked with the procedure during the execution of the program or during runtime. Next comes the concept of message passing. So, message passing. So, as I told earlier, in OOP system, how does the system works or the objects communicate with each other? In object oriented programming, the objects communicate with each other by passing the messages. The concept of messages are used to request the execution of different procedures within an object. In object oriented programming, the objects communicate with each other by passing the messages. Now we will be discussing the advantages of OOPs, the benefits of OOPs. The programs are modularized, they are based on the principles of object and classes. As we discussed in inheritance, we can use the existing object, that means we can reuse the existing code. Inheritance helps the code reusability, it avoids the code duplication. As we discussed, data encapsulation, which will help to protect the data. The data is kept safe from outer inference and misuse. In object-oriented programming, it is easier to develop complex programs. As we use inheritance, the existing objects can be used. The data abstraction we represent only the essential features. So, we are not worried about the background details or the specification. Then the next benefit is the creation and implementation of OOP. It is easy and it reduces the creation or development time. As we discussed, the objects communicate with each other by passing the messages. Passing the messages makes the work easier. As every coin has two faces, if there are advantages, there will be disadvantages also. Let us discuss the disadvantages of object-oriented programming. The following are the disadvantages of object-oriented programming. It does not have a set of standards, and it is difficult to adapt the flow diagrams to the object-oriented programming. It is difficult to convert a real world program to a object program. Lastly, the classes is overly generalized. The disadvantages of OOPs are OOP software is not having set of standards. The process of adapting the flow diagrams and object oriented programming through object and classes is a complex process. To convert a real world problem into an object is difficult. The classes are overly generalized. These are the disadvantages of object oriented programming. Let us discuss object oriented programming applications. The following are the applications of object oriented programming: object oriented databases, computer graphic applications, artificial intelligence and expert systems, user interface designing, for example menus, windows, real-time systems, CAD, CAM softwares, simulations and modeling. So, these are the applications of object oriented programming: object oriented databases, computer graphics applications, artificial intelligence and expert systems, user interface design such as Windows, real-time systems, CAD CAM software, simulations and modeling. So, these are some of the applications of object oriented programming. Thank you my dear students for your patience listening. Have a great day. All the best. Do well. All the best. Thank you.